30 minutes.
7:30. All right. No, I thank the council. They're the ones who allowed it, so thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to bring the gavel back in. All right, the formal meeting is now in session. Let's do a pledge. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I have to do roll call again. You all still here? All right, so I see everyone. Paloma, you're still out there?
Present.
All right, and I see the city administrator, I see Christian, so we're all here. Okay, first thing in our formal meeting is the opportunity for public comment. If you signed up on this sheet, you got 3 minutes to make any comment you like, except if it concerns the public hearing. We have 2 public hearings this evening. One is concerning amending the zoning code regarding minimum parking requirements, which we're going to adjourn, I think, right?
Yeah, but there's a community segment that's very important tonight.
Oh.
Okay.
He's telling me I've jumped the gun and I don't do the public hearings or the public comment first, because if I just bothered to read the agenda, I would see I have to honor outgoing council members George Mansfield and Justice McCray. So if I might. So this one is in honor and recognition of Justice McCray, Council Member Ward 2, City of Beacon, 2022 to 2023. I personally just want to say, Justice, I really, really appreciate your service. I think this has been a really good council, and part of that is due to your participation, and I just want to say thank you. So,
thank you.
And you get this. And then the second one, who's been here longer than any of us can remember, is in honor and recognition of George Mansfield. George has been a council member at large from 2010. He was first elected in 2009 to 2023. That is 14 years of continuous service. The only person that I can think that has more continuous service than that is Clara Lou Gould. George, you've been here. You've watched the transformation of our community. You got us going on sewer stuff because you complained about, can you imagine complaining about sewer backup in your own home? And I think you were also on the planning board for a stint.
2 years.
And then you joined us on the council. I think you've seen us go through an early master plan and then a more formal one. I think you've watched the council kind of work and rework zoning a number of times, which I think strengthens us every time we do it. I just want to say thank you, and I will deeply miss your presence on council. So I give you this, and I just want to ask for a round of applause. Do you all want to add it? You can add stuff on your comments, or now take your pick.
I'll do it now.
All right, you're on. Yeah. Floor is yours.
Go ahead and blaze of glory, George. He's going to name names.
Well, normally my reports are rather short, so I think I'm going to make up for it this evening. So as this is my final report as a councilman, I'd just like to say a few things. It has been both an honor and great privilege to have served these last 14 years as your representative. During these 14 years, we have witnessed profound changes in our city. Some would say for the better, and others for the worse. It hasn't always been easy to determine the best course of any action, but I have tried my best to listen to all the diverse voices and opinions and base my vote on the best interest of the city as a whole. I realized early on that we as a council have a dual and parallel responsibility to consider the interests of our current population while simultaneously considering the good of generations to come. I've heard so much chatter about old versus new Beacon over the years, and I've never felt it was relevant nor constructive. I believe we must govern with a deep respect for the past, and we must constantly address the challenges of the present while having a clear vision of the future. As with everything on this earth, Beacon is ever changing and never static. I am proud to have been a voice among many in this continuum and evolution of Beacon. For me as an artist, this has been my greatest artistic collaboration. It is a living, organic social sculpture, unparalleled by any object I could create alone. I have had the honor to serve with many dedicated council members, 3 mayors, a passionate and dedicated staff, hundreds of volunteers, and the best city administrator of my tenure, Chris White. I have learned from them all. Regardless of any political party, they have all given their time, energy, and hearts into making Beacon a better place to live, work, and raise a family. I can't fully express the lessons I've learned personally from this experience. Otherwise, this meeting would probably be a lot longer. But I can say I've never been prouder than having spent my time serving this amazing community. And the thing I'm most proud of, though, is something that is not seen or often recognized as valuable. It is the issue that brought me into politics in the first place, that being sewage, as the mayor talked about, and the infrastructure surrounding it. Over the past 14 years, we have made significant and expensive updates to our sewage treatment plant, water plant, and countless miles of pipes below our roads. As a result, we have kept many millions of gallons of untreated sewage from entering our creek, our river, and our homes. These improvements are fundamental to securing a healthy and viable future for our city. They are the foundation upon which our city is built. Without the dedication of many, we would otherwise be building upon sand. I thank all those who have shared in understanding the value of a sound foundation. And I would also like to thank the public. I would like to thank those who attend our meetings, sometimes every single week, and I'm looking at you, Teresa. To those who watch it from home, to those who attend via Zoom, to all those who are engaged in the often monotonous sausage-making process. I would like to thank all those who have mustered the courage to come before us, whether at the podium or by correspondence, with concerns, complaints, and occasional compliments. Your voice is a powerful tool. Understand always that it is a fundamental right and should be exercised often. We have all made Beacon what it was, is, and will be. I now leave it in the hands of all those who choose to serve, speak, and participate in making Beacon a better place for all. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
And Justice, you can do it now or
You
during comments.
expect me to follow?
I don't know.
3 pages or more.
I can wait.
Okay, cool. Okay, that was the community segment. Now there's the first opportunity for public comment, now that I'm reading my agenda thoroughly. And there are 2 public hearings. One is concerning parking requirements, which we will start and then adjourn, as I understand it, or are we just going to adjourn it?
We're just going to adjourn it. So we were waiting on feedback from both the city and the county planning board. The city planning board had a number of questions that really need to be workshopped further, and the county's waiting until we have a more developed draft of it.
Got it.
So what we thought is we'll just start it again in January.
Yeah, so given that it might involve changes, there isn't much point
It
in
is gonna-
getting the public comment on this particular version. So, okay, so we're going to adjourn that one. So if you have comments on parking, you can talk about anything you want on parking because we're going to be adjourning this one. But you might want to wait until we have a revised draft. And then the second one is a public hearing regarding compensation of the council and the mayor. So if you have comments on those, just hang on a minute. If you have any other comments, this is your opportunity to do so. I see a couple of names on the list. There's a gentleman named Rich Kaplan who's on the list first. So you're up, Richie.
All right, thank you so much. It was very kind of you to do only a half hour.
Yeah.
I'm here representing myself, but I know that I heard the council thanking Justice and George for their service. And I'm here to thank Justice and George for my kind of representing myself, the community, Main Street, for your service. Justice, thank you so much. As George so eloquently wrote down, this is not that easy to do, okay? And representing many, many different kinds of people is certainly a tough job. Thank you so much from myself personally. And in particular, George, Has been a mainstay of the art community. George has also represented the carpentry community, and of course, George, the business community. And he's got a lot going on. And if we were in a different environment, I would probably ask everybody to raise their glasses and toast these hardworking people and wish them a happy future and a healthy future in their new endeavors. Thank you so much, George. I appreciate it. And Justice, thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks. Teresa Kraft. Do you come here occasionally? Yes. Okay.
Hi.
And you live on File?
As a Beacon resident, I'm ready to bid farewell to this year's, feeling optimistic that the coming year will bring more contentment, better health, and increased safety for all of us. With a greater emphasis on Beacon, we can maximize its potential, and I'm happy to hear that maybe you'll focus that way. Today, we are witnessing severe flooding throughout the city of Beacon, and this will only be exacerbated with more high-density housing and overdevelopment throughout the city. The city must put a building moratorium in place in 2024 and curb back on the rampant growth that is draining our infrastructure. In a single day, we saw the wastewater treatment plant, the middle school, the high school, and Memorial Park grounds flooded, and endless social media posts with stories of flooded basements and distress. Contrary to people saying it's global warming, the principal and primary culprits are the excessive development and construction in all our green areas in this city. We really need to take a tighter look at this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thomas Kerrigan?
Good evening. I had signed up to speak about the parking issue, so I'm going to reserve any comment until the next meeting. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Great. Hope to see you then. All right. And Amy, are you in the same position? Amy Brown?
Sorry, people, just a point of information. People can still speak in the public hearing tonight, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to talk about parking, you can. It's just that we might be changing what it says, right? Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, but that's absolutely, what Dan says is absolutely right. You could speak on that or anything else for that matter, except for the compensation issue. All right. So then Sergey Krasikov.
Good evening. Sergey Krasikov, 386 Liberty Street. I want to start with thanking George and Justice for their service and being open and available to meet and talk and listen and show that they really care about the city. So I have a couple topics that I want to jump through. First, I want to suggest to consider making Public Safety Committee doing at least quarterly one meeting in the evening. 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. on Thursday is very hard for people who have regular jobs. Sending comments are obviously possible, but coming there in person and talking and presenting whatever your issue is way more impactful, which I have done in the past. So I want the council to consider asking them to do once in a while. Second, Fishkill Avenue Ad Hoc Committee. There are a lot of people in Beacon with a lot of invested interest in how that develops and with, that are already volunteering. And I want to suggest to think about a way for the ad hoc committee to have a pathway to work with existing committees like CAC, like Tree Committee, Greenway Trail. So perhaps once in a while, if there is a particular topic that is of concern to both, the rest of us can participate, or some representative can participate, or create some sort of way to have more engagement. That's something I felt was missing with the Main Street Access Committee. They felt they worked very hard and they produced great results, but they were quite insular, potentially by design, and they didn't cooperate much with the rest of the volunteer bodies in the city. And lastly, I wanted to talk about the idea that Dan brought up, I think last year, about creating a list of short but impactful sidewalks that we can consider adding in the future, where a very small section can actually elevate a lot of issues and create a lot of benefit to the community. So I have a rather sad-looking map that I want to give you. The first section is of personal concern for me is Liberty Street between JVF and Stone. The Liberty Street is two-way traffic. There is a sidewalk all the way, from the roundhouse through the JVF, and then it ends at the JVF parking lot, and then there is a stretch, quarter mile, to Stone Street with no sidewalks in the winter.
15 seconds.
It's get a lot of snow, and for us who have kids at JVF, that's always a problem. So, and 4 houses there already have sidewalks or remnants of old sidewalks. So I want you to consider adding a section there. And another one on Washington between Elliott and Davidson, or between Elliott and Stone, to make it easier for us to get to Davidson and to the Hidden Brook. That's another section. There is a piece of sidewalk on Washington between Elliott and Davidson, only for half the block, and then you have to kind of jump through the hoops and avoid traffic while trying to get your kids to the park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the physical public that wants to make a public comment on anything except the one hearing coming up on council compensation? Tell us who you are, where you live, and mic is yours.
John Anthony Gargiulo, Madison Avenue, Beacon. I'm also here to thank Justice and George for your commitment to the city. Thank you, Justice. Your voice has been very welcome these last 2 years. We really appreciate it. We're long-time watchers. We don't come very often, but we're watching. Thank you, George, from the bottom of all of our hearts. Your service has been wonderful. My personal journey to Beacon, George met me. I didn't really know anybody here, and he just met me, and we had a burger, and he drove me around, and he introduced me to the East End, which, as some of you know, my business is there. I would have probably never have really felt so connected, but more so, George invited me to a political event at his house, and I got to meet other city council people and the mayor, and they talked so passionate about their ideas, about Beacon, and I was telling them about my idea, and they weren't just like, oh, that's crazy. They were very welcoming and very supportive. And that was back in probably about 2012, and me and my wife have been watching City Council ever since. And I think one of the important things that George has taught us is that we try to set out to do so much good with this board, but it creates difficulties because there is no perfect law, I think you've said in the past. And he's always been the voice of reason, and it's always nice to kind of look at the other side of the coin or the other side of the argument to kind of see it from all places, and sometimes good intentions can lead to difficulties down the road. So you've always kind of really had that good voice, George, and we really do appreciate that. Thank you again for a great year or 2 years. Thanks, everybody. And I just want to reiterate also what George said. City administrator is doing a great job. It's very obvious to people who drive around. I think the settlement camp has never looked better. We've talked a lot about how that is a huge opportunity for the city to do so much good, and I think it looks better than it ever has, so thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, John.
Anyone else in the physical public? All right, anyone online want to make a public comment on anything except the one public hearing on compensation?
If you're on Zoom and you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand option at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're joining by phone, you can press *9. And if you're watching on YouTube, you will need to join the Zoom by visiting beaconny.gov. Mayor, we do have one hand raised, and that's Pam Weatherby, and I have allowed Pam to speak. Pam, go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Hello, Pam Weatherby, 66 Mead Avenue. I just wanted to also extend my gratitude to Justice and to George for their years of service. You know, George especially, having sat as the public, both of us complaining about issues that we had, quality of life issues, and sitting next to him for several years. I just appreciate all that you've done, George, for the city of Beacon. And Justice, I appreciate all that you have done also in your 2 years on the council. And thank you, and hopefully we'll see you around the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Anyone else online?
No more hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. Let's go on to public hearing. So I'd like a motion to adjourn the public hearing concerning parking to
January 22nd.
the second formal meeting of January, which would be January 22nd. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion.
So Ren and George, and again, the reason for that is that we've gotten input from the county, or we're waiting on input from the county, and we've gotten input from the planning board, and we just want to take that into account
And I think,
bring it to a workshop.
I think you need to workshop it again.
Yeah.
I was going to say our next workshop is the Monday or the next meeting before that, so we'll discuss it before the public meeting.
All right. All in favor of adjourning the public hearing to January 22nd, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Paloma?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all.
Did you have a question, Dan?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so nobody can comment tonight? So there's no public hearing tonight, we're just adjourning it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
About a few minutes ago, we just told the couple that they could speak.
Oh, no. So let me just clarify if you misunderstood. So you could speak during that public comment period on any topic, including parking, but I thought what you said was you wanted to wait to see what it looked like. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, because I'd reopen the public comment if I was misunderstood. So that's how I had heard it as well, so thanks.
And I will say for anyone listening, including you, if you're interested in this topic, there is a recording online of the planning board meeting where they actually talked about this extensively, and I really appreciate them digging into that as well. So it's both at the beginning of the meeting, and then if for some reason the other topics in between don't interest you, if you fast forward to like the last half hour, they talk about it there as well, so.
And I vote aye. Because I held back.
Oh, okay. We all good now? All right. So the second public hearing is on a proposed local law to concerning compensation in the city charter for compensation for the council and the mayor. And I'll open the public hearing and ask first for Christian to explain what it is we're doing so the public hears it.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a proposed local law that would amend the City of Beacon Charter. It is that is all that is being amended, just one section, 2.01, and it is just increasing the council and the mayor's compensation. There are no other proposed changes to the city charter.
And the amounts of the increase?
Yes, the city council members will be increased from $9,000 to $11,000 per year, and the mayor will receive an increase from $24,000 to $30,000.
So 25 to 30.
25 to 30.
Yeah.
My bad. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, let's open the public hearing. I see one person on the list signed up, which is Teresa Kraft. Thank you.
I'm opposed to the increase in council stipends. I'm sure it will pass tonight, but I want it on the record that I've asked the city before why they put something on the agenda for a public hearing and then vote on it the same night, despite being told by legal counsel that it doesn't and wouldn't happen. Yet time and again, we see it happening as evident in tonight's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the physical meeting that wants to make a comment on this particular issue regarding compensation? Let us know who you are, where you live.
Sergey Krasikov, 86 Liberty Street. I appreciate the work you all do. I know it takes a lot of time. I spoke with some of you asking how long time commitment is on a weekly basis, and it's sometimes staggering. So I think even with increase, it doesn't fully capture your dedication, and I also appreciate that many of you expressed concerns of voting for your own pay increases and you wanted it to be deferred to the next council. So I appreciate your sensitivity on the topic, but I think you fully deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the physical space? Not seeing anyone. Ben, anyone in the remote portion of the meeting?
No hands raised online.
Okay, any other comments by council? Obviously, we will take it up in, when the resolution comes up. So unless someone has a comment, a motion to close the public hearing would be in order.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
So that was Dan and Molly. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Paloma?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all. Okay, let's do reports. Let's start with Dan so that we can end closer to Justice.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, and you'll be glad to know that I don't have any report tonight, and I wish everybody a happy holidays and look forward to seeing everyone next year. Thanks.
My only report is to thank George and Justice, and that's all I'm going to say. Otherwise, I will cry. But thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
I'll go next. So a couple of you already heard my thoughts on my two fellow council members. And while Ren threatens to have tears, I actually had a few welling up, George, when you were talking. So I'm just so appreciative of your service. The only other thing I will add is that Elizabeth Barrett and I hosted the Beacon Historical Society over the weekend at her home, and it was a lot of fun. They're starting to get out, and so post-COVID, I'm hoping we do some more of that, and we're just looking forward to having you at our home at some event sometime. So thank you. Molly?
Should we skip to me and Paloma,
Yes.
and then I'll pass back?
There you go.
Great. So also, thank you so much, George and Justice, having just started in this work 2 years ago, so starting with Justice, and such a partner in crime that you are in this and making it all possible and all the ideas that you have. And George showing the way, how it works, kind of all the things is like, why isn't George kind of leaping in? And now I'm like, oh, right, I don't need to like do all the things that I'm currently doing, and how to make use of our time, no matter what we're paid, will always be part-time. So I really appreciate the both of you. I also want to recognize, speaking of things important to the city, the passing of Dave Shelley, who's also the Pink Unicorn. Some of you may have seen, be you a resident here of Beacon or a visitor. He was also a Ward 1 resident, the ward that I represent, and I appreciate all the outpouring that I've seen already. I don't know what the family is planning as a way to honor Dave, but anyone who wants to pay their respects, I encourage you to do so in the ways that you feel are best serve you, and as such a light in our community, passing on before his time. I'd like to thank the city for their work on the flooding today. I had to do some work myself on my own property, and just appreciate all the work that's been done over the years, starting with George, to make our city set up so that we are in the best position possible to deal with these changes that we have to get used to in the years to come. And last but not least, because we don't have our next meeting, as mentioned, until January 8th, my next office hours will be January 12th, which is that Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. at Bank Square. And if you can't make that time, feel free to reach out to me over email, and I'm happy to connect about anything you want to talk about. And with that, I will wish everyone listening a happy holidays and pass it to you, Paloma.
Thank you, Molly. I appreciate all of your announcements and all of the announcements of everybody before. And I will simply pass it to George and Justice. Thank you all.
Well, George already went, and I thought that I'd have a lot to say in my final report as a city council person, and then George spoke, so I don't have as much to say, but I've got a lot more to say, and it's just not going to be from the seat. When I decided to step up and run for office, I had been actively participating in council meetings for a long time as a social justice activist and a housing justice advocate. I thought I understood how our local government runs, and I came in charged and ready to take on the work that our previous council left us, and I was ready to be bold, ambitious, and frankly, confrontational. Stepping into this seat, I learned quickly how much I didn't know, and for better or worse, I slowed down. I didn't know how much I needed to know on the county level or state level, and I didn't realize how often I'd feel powerless in this position. I also didn't realize, though, how influential my voice had become in addressing issues locally and on a larger level. I've sat down in the living rooms and dining rooms of dozens of my community members' homes to address issues from potholes to accessing legal assistance, and I've been a city council person that people in every ward have reached out to talk about how they've faced discrimination in a very real way. I'm so honored that I've gotten to be a part of a council that has fought for tenants' rights, that has passed trailblazing climate legislation, and that's invested heavily in recreation and community input and making sure that community voices are heard. I'm proud of the ways that I've leveraged the power of this seat to push back against contamination of the Hudson River, to advocate for tenant protection statewide, to fight Central Hudson's proposed increased rates, and to do so much more outside of what folks see here every Monday. And I'm just so grateful for everything that I've learned. And everybody that's supported me. I've felt so much support through this position, and I wouldn't have made it through without my community. I have a lot of hope for the future, and while I am going to be finding better ways to play to my strengths, I look forward to doing everything that I can to make sure that Beacon can be the best that it can be. And special shout out to my neighbors on South Chestnut and Rombout. I love you very much, and you've really made the neighborhood special. And I have so many people to thank, and I don't think I can thank them all here, but for those who make this community special, for those who do things, for those who show up in whatever ways they know how, thank you, and keep showing up.
Just want to add one.
Yes, sir.
I just want to add to what Molly spoke about is for David Shelley. There is a memorial service scheduled on December 21st from 1 through 5 at Riverview Funeral Home, and then from 5:30 at the Prophecy Theater will be a community celebration of his life.
Oh, great.
Okay. City Administrator?
I want to thank our fire department and our wastewater treatment department for getting us through the floods this morning. The wastewater treatment plant was inundated by more than 4 inches of rain. We avoided any significant damage, which was a threat at one point because of how much water was coming through the plant. And our fire department by noon had pumped out 19 basements. So again, I thought it was a spectacular response from city staff. I want to note that the vac truck is done for the season, so no more bulk leaves. We're now getting ready to pick up Christmas trees, so if you have Christmas trees after the new year, you can leave them on the curb and we will take them away. And that will go for 2 to 3 weeks. And again, we will still take bags of leaves and brush. I'm announcing that because our next meeting is not until January 8th at 7 o'clock. You'll have a reorganization meeting at which we'll set the schedule for the year. And then on a personal note, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been. I wish you guys well. And Justice, I appreciate all the time that you took to learn stuff. You came in and met with me a lot when you had questions, and I appreciated the time you put in. And George, you're just like quintessential Beacon. You're like every part of Beacon that I like, just kind of personified. So good luck to both of you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Let's do local laws and resolutions, and we'll save the best for last. We'll have the minutes of December 11th. Okay. So first one is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute a memorandum of agreement with the Civil Service Employees Association. Can I get a motion and a second on that?
Motion.
Second.
So that was Molly and Ren. Chris, you're going to tell us the same thing 3 times in a row?
Yes, so this is just to implement the $1,000 employee retention benefit by modifying our agreement with the CSEA. That the CSEA represents about 1/2 of our employees. And this is just an update to the existing collective bargaining agreement that runs until the end of December 2024. And it simply adds $1,000 to each employee's pay, as we talked about in the budget.
I will only point out that $1,000 on a lower paid person is a bigger impact on them than it is on a higher compensated person, and that's by intention.
It was designed by that, like that.
Any comments on this one? And again, it's built into the budget, so.
I'm really glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Paloma?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Anyone opposed? Hearing none. Second one is the second union, so it's the same authorization of the city administrator, and this one is for the International Association of Firefighters. And can I get a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second.
So Ren and Molly. Chris, anything you add?
No, this is the union that represents our 17 firefighters, and as we saw this morning, they're doing a great job, and this is well-deserved. And I want them to stay and work in Beacon for their careers, and this helps us keep them from going to higher-paying municipalities.
All right. So not hearing any further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? And Paloma?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. Okay, 2 down. Third one is the same authorization of the city administrator, and this one is for the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second.
So that was George and Molly. Chris, anything you add?
No, this is our third union. It represents about 35 of our employees. And again, it's the same as the other two. We're adding $1,000 to the pay of each employee.
So for those of you who read the last council or last workshop, which had minutes from 15 years ago, you would recall, if you're reading those, that some member of the council was opposing authorizing any funds for the police department in excess of what there is in their budget. That was a period where we were working on trying to rein in some behavior which we thought was a little too far. That was the period that we also ended up bringing in the U.S. Department of Justice to oversee the police department. I am happy to support incrementing the funds of the police department by $1,000 per employee. Any other comments? All right.
I'm going to abstain.
All right, that's all right. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Paloma?
I will also abstain on this particular resolution.
All right, so then I'll ask for any nays, and I didn't hear any, and then any abstentions, and I think I heard 2. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then as I understand it, abstentions count as noes.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
It passes.
So, but it passes 5-0 and 2. Okay. So the next one is a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement with Brown & Brown for the insurance services from the New York Municipal Insurance
Reciprocal. It's like a co-op of insurance companies, of municipalities that pool together to get their insurance.
And the motion came from?
Motion.
Second.
Ren and Justice. And would you add anything that you didn't add in the workshop on this?
No, I mean, this is a big item, and Susan Tucker discussed it a bit when she did her first presentation on the budget. It's one of those non-departmental items, and it's significant in our budget, but it's absolutely critical.
There's just a little typo. The second whereas has an and at the end that can be removed.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no further conversation, all in favor of adopting this resolution concerning Brown & Brown for insurance services, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Paloma?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, that passes. The next one is adopting a local law to amend the city charter concerning compensation. Can I get a motion and a second on that?
Motion.
That was Ren
Second.
and Justice. And Christian, will you add anything that you didn't add prior to the public hearing about 40 minutes ago?
The one thing I want to just add is what the gentleman during the public hearing said is correct, that the council is voting for the next council's compensation.
Any comments?
Yeah, so the idea behind this that Justice presented was that that it would encourage people to run, maybe that it would encourage people to run who saw that the compensation was a little higher, and I think that there's value to that argument, and however, I object to voting on a pay increase for myself. And so because the next council has already been elected back in November, I don't think that January 1st, 2024 should still be the active date, because it wouldn't have the intended effect that we want it to have. So I wanted to make a motion to amend the law, Section 5, to read January 1st, 2026.
So there's a motion to amend the resolution or the local law.
I would second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I just have a question, Christian, for the mayor's salary. As the mayor is a 4-year term, would we be able to increase the mayor midway through their position, or would we have to wait for that position for the next time a mayor was elected?
Yes, you would. You don't need to wait. It would just be subject to referendum.
Okay.
Question for the attorney. So we purposely budgeted, or we haven't budgeted this yet for 2024. The idea was we would pass this and then do a budget amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do a law that goes into effect more than a year from the implementation of the law?
I'm not aware of any prohibition on that, but
Okay.
that is something that is valid point and should most likely be looked into on that time frame between the effective date and passing a law.
Yeah, I don't sense any issue, but again, I don't know. I never had one of these.
So
right?
what would happen then in the 2025 budget if the council decides not to raise the amount?
Then you would need to go back and amend the budget. And
Amend-
also, once this law gets passed, you are legally obligated.
That's what I was asking.
Under
Okay.
the charter to pay that salary.
Can I ask another point of clarification? Because I had the same exact aim that I understood Councilmember Aymar Blair to be having, to commit to the following council's compensation being increased, with the underlying purpose of this resolution and change to be making this position more accessible for incoming council members. Since there is a pending question on the legality of changing the year out, would it be more appropriate to postpone this to next year, sometime before the end of the next calendar year, at which time most people are deciding whether to run or not? And I'm curious what the rest of council thinks about that idea.
Christian answered the question. There's not a question. Christian said we can do this a year ahead.
Okay, apologies, I misunderstood.
Yeah, the only thing I would add would be two things. One is, obviously, if we want to put it off, we can argue it's not ripe, so we could just, table this. But then the other one is, I just need folks to know my view, which is I will be voting against it. And I just would rather not see a salary increase, or at least not one that affects me directly. Having just observed substantial salary increases at the county, it doesn't strike me as the right time to do that. So just so you know, I didn't want to affect other opinions, so I just thought I'd offer it at the last. Okay.
So Mayor, you have an active amendment
Right.
on the table?
So I think the first thing we do is vote on the amendment to change the date from 2024 to 2026. Is that correct?
Can I clarify,
First,
though?
I think I need a second.
No, I think you got one from Paloma.
Oh,
didn't
really?
you?
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you did.
Okay, thank you.
If we didn't, do we have to make that clear that it doesn't impact the mayor? Otherwise, do we trigger a referendum?
Yes, you would be triggering a referendum if you increase council compensation during the term. And as the mayor has a 4-year term and the council members have a 2-year term, they would overlap.
So instead of us voting here, it would be the public voting in a referendum.
Well, no,
I'm
it's a,
sorry, does that mean that we can change the referendum to match the terms, so the mayor would not be voting for compensation on his 4-year term, but that this would come into effect in the following term, 2028?
Christian, I'm confused. So if they do this amendment tonight, and then they pass the underlying law, the mayor has not voted on his increase in the same term as then, it's basically just staggering by 1 year the implementation of the increase. He wouldn't be doing another vote next year. We'd actually have to necessarily put the budget up to cover it because of the law. So would that contradict? I'm not seeing an issue with that if this is what the council wants to do.
Yes.
yeah, and let me just understand, first off, two things on the term permissive referendum. Permissive referendum means that if people collect signatures, they could put a referendum on the ballot on this issue. It doesn't mean they have to vote on it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify so everyone understood. And that only applies if we were to, next year, pass an increase of our salaries affecting us that year. But if we...
That term.
Right? But if we pass this now, affecting the next council, there's no permissive referendum on that.
That is correct. It matters on when the term of the council members voting is.
Right.
And
So-
I think you meant to say there's no mandatory
Yes.
referendum.
Right.
The voters could still
I'm
do a permissive referendum if they get enough signatures.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you separate the compensation for the mayor and the council? Can you we just talk about this as a council and not even refer to the mayor?
Well, we have to include the salary is different.
Well,
I just don't
salary,
see
yeah,
it
just
being a
don't-
problem. If you pass that tonight, you haven't forced a mandatory referendum.
That's right.
Even if it's a staggered, is that a right interpretation?
Yes, because it would be staggered at that point.
Because you're not voting on the term in which you're increasing your compensation.
Should we lay out in the proposed amendment that it is staggered, be explicit that for the council it would start January 1st, 2026, and for the mayor it would start January 1st, 2028?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sorry, Lee, we just...
It's okay. It's where I am. So,
All right, I'm really confused because I thought you were going to have this go into effect you wanted to go into the effect of your terms or next year, the calendar year?
The 2026. So not this coming
got it.
2-year term, but the next term, which for us is 2 years and for the mayor is 4 years, so the
But I
future.
believe you could, Christian, is there any reason why you can't do them both in 2026? Because it's not, the
permissive.
term in which they're voting is not the term in which either of them,
Yes,
either
sir.
the council or the mayor is getting the increase.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make that, yes, if you
So
vote...
it's not
it
2026
matters on,
and 2028. It can both be 2026.
correct, it matters when you vote on it.
Okay.
yep.
When the voting and then when it takes effect.
So it's okay for the mayor to have a different salary the second half of his term as long as we vote on it not within that term,
Yes.
Correct.
or not salary, different compensation.
All right.
But what I also understood is that the mayor would not vote for an increase in salary in his full 4-year term,
I don't
which
think
is
that's what he
the
said.
purpose of the staggering.
Just telling you how I'd vote, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so there's an amendment on the table to have this be implemented as of January 1, 2026.
Okay, so no further discussion. All in favor of the amendment to change 2024 to 2026, say aye.
Aye.
I'll vote aye on that one. Everyone, hello?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused still. Is us amending it to 2026 still cover the conflict of the mayor having a 4-year term starting in 2024?
There's no conflict.
No, we've resolved that.
Yes, there would be no conflict because the vote is occurring before the start of the mayor's next term.
Yep.
Okay,
And your vote is?
On the amendment.
aye,
On the amendment.
Okay.
Right, so now,
on the amendment.
right, so local law is now amended to read going into effect January 1st, 2026. Any other discussion before we bring the full local law to a vote?
I just want to say I vote nay on that amendment. I mean, I know everyone else voted aye already.
Oh, okay.
But,
I'm sorry, let me make sure we'll record that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I've been in this position for 2 years, and I think you guys deserve to be paid more. I think anybody who sits in the seat deserves to be paid more.
Can there be retroactive pay?
But how about combat
now,
pay?
George.
14 years, George?
Okay, so.
No, but yeah, it hasn't been raised in over 10 years, and I think pushing it back another 2 years is, I don't think it's a good idea, especially since the 11,000 and the 30,000 was to calculate for inflation today. So I think I'm pushing back against that amendment, but that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. I'm very respectful for everyone's views, and again, I wanted to state where I'm going to be, but I didn't want it to affect the debate.
But the amendment passes.
Yes, but the amendment passes. So absent any other further discussion on this, let me bring this one to a vote. So this would be adopting local law number 8. It would amend the city charter concerning compensation. It would raise the council's compensation from $9,000 to $11,000 starting in January 1, 2026, and it would also raise the mayor's compensation from $25,000 to $30,000, also starting January 1, 2026. Any last minute discussion? And okay, then let's vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Is this a roll call vote since it's the city charter?
I don't think so. Christian?
I have the rules with me right here. If we
All
want
right.
to look at them really quickly, give me a second.
Might as well.
You want me to run a roll call or just wait a second?
I'm sorry.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think
I'm
so
not
either.
seeing anything in here.
Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Paloma?
Aye.
And anyone opposed, so the mayor would vote no. Okay, cool. Let's go on. And then the next one concerns a tax certiorari settlement with ENEL North America. Can I get a motion in a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, before we go on, I meant to mention this earlier. In the resolution we just passed, there's a notice of a public hearing, says it was published in Poughkeepsie Journal on December 10th, which is the day after day before we set the public hearing. Is that accurate?
It's accurate, and it's not an issue.
Okay, great.
We knew you guys were going to set the public hearing, and we needed to get it in to get the requisite number of days before the public hearing.
Okay, great, awesome. Thank you for confirming.
Yeah, and we needed a little bit of room. Like, we never know when the Journal is exactly going to print
Right.
these.
Great, thanks. Sorry, go ahead.
Motion on a tax cert, looking for a motion. in a
Motion.
Second.
Molly and Justice. And Christian, you've told us once before, but you'll tell us again. This is $1,000.
Yes, it's $1,000. It involves the settlement of pending litigation involving the tax assessment for a utility company, which assessment is based on figures given by the New York State Real Property Taxation Department. And as the mayor said, this is $1,100 refund for 2023. And our firm has reviewed the settlement offer, find it acceptable, and recommend that the council approve.
Okay, any comments or discussion before we vote on that one? All right, all in favor of approving this settlement, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Paloma?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then the last one is a resolution urging Governor Hochul to sign Senate Bill 1163A and Assembly Bill 7691 regarding a New York State Community Commission on Reparation Remedies. Can I get a motion in a second?
Motion. Second.
So Justice and Molly, any discussion? All right, so I will weigh in. When I first was elected in Beacon 30 years ago, I represented Ward 2. Ward 2 at the time was the poorest ward in the city and also the most diverse ward in the city. I've always felt an obligation toward that particular population at the time that elected me, that took a risk on this newcomer who had only been here for a year. Luckily for me, I had a 6-month-old I could knock on every door with, so that helped a great deal. But I was always very respectful of the portion of the community that I represented. And to me, that is a nexus of connection to this particular piece of legislation. Just because it has the word reparation in it doesn't mean that that is the only remedy that's available. A conversation at the state level will only help our diversity and our inclusiveness in the state. So I will be supportive of this. That said, I will point out to the council again, let's not do too many of these, but this is one I think to me bears a very close nexus to Ward 2.
Yeah, and I will, in similar vein, just echo, I really appreciate the fact that this does affect, sadly, unfortunately, probably most, if not every single community in the U.S., and Beacon is no exception to that. And I appreciate that this calls out specifically the role that New York State played. I, in fact, learned a couple things reading this that I hadn't, or things that I hadn't really focused of. And for example, even if slavery itself was not taking place in New York, there were several companies that benefited from the products of slavery in all ways. And so I appreciated that and calling that out, and some of the discrepancies in housing and education that exist in New York State to this day. So I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, Justice.
Yeah, I would reiterate what both Lee and Molly said. I spoke to a member of the Beacon Historical Society last week who reiterated exactly, Molly, as you said, while it may be disputed that actual chattel slavery was happening in New York State, there are many industries specific to New York State and even specific to Beacon that were directly tied to plantations in other parts of the country. And so I agree this is absolutely directly relevant to the city of Beacon.
Okay. Unless there's other comments, I'll bring it to a vote. All in favor of sending an urgency to the governor to sign these two bills, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Paloma?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Or any abstentions? Okay. Now we can get to the business of the city. All right, so the minutes of December 11th. I beseech you all for a motion and a second to approve them.
Motion.
Second.
So Molly and Justice?
And as a little gift for me, there is one thing right at the end, almost as if it was put there deliberately. My parting gift to Justice and George. Apparently the minutes are mentioned twice, once after we adjourned, which, to be fair, is something I would do, but probably didn't actually happen in practice.
Other than that one change, any other changes, additions, subtractions, deletions, idle comments? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes of December 11th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Paloma?
Aye.
Okay. We now have the second opportunity for public comment. Anyone in the physical audience who did not speak the first time at the first opportunity for public comment, you have an opportunity to speak now if you wish. Seeing a nod left and right, I will ask Ben, is there anyone in the remote arena who wishes to make a public comment who didn't do so the last time?
No hands raised on Zoom.
I will entertain from Justice a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second by George.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Paloma?
Aye.
All right, thank you all and good night.
Thank you.
Recording.